Okay, so what do you know about CO2's impact on the environment?
Well, carbon dioxide is a greenhouse gas. So what that means is molecular structure has two carbons and one oxygen, or two oxygens and one carbon, the C and the O and the 2, absorbs terrestrial radiation, which is a fancy word for heat that comes out of the Earth. So the Earth takes energy from the sun, it warms the Earth's surface and the atmosphere. The Earth must emit that back to space. CO2 is one of the many molecules that can absorb heat going outside back to space, and it takes that heat, it makes it sort of vibrate and dance around, and then it sends that heat in all different directions, where some of it comes back to Earth, warms the surface again, some of it gets absorbed by other CO2 molecules, and they do the same thing. So it acts to keep energy, which is really heat, keeps heat in the Earth's atmosphere, keeps some of that heat from escaping to space.
Oh yeah, so lately, like the amounts of CO2 emissions have been a lot higher than they were in like the last century. So right now it's at 400 parts per million. And how do you think we could lower it to like 350 parts per million?
Well, carbon dioxide stays in the atmosphere for a very long time, hundreds, thousands of years, hundreds to thousands of years. So we'd actually have to remove it mechanically from the atmosphere to lower it to that point. If we just stopped emitting right now, it would take a very long time for it to reduce in the atmosphere. And there are technologies that could possibly do that, but they're very expensive and they're not very well proven. So you can actually take some of the CO2 out of the atmosphere and condense it and put it deep under the Earth's crust where it will stay forever, or deep into the bottom of the ocean, but it's really expensive to do. So that's a very challenging goal.
Yeah, because that's like basically what like 350.com and like Greenpeace are going at. They're just like trying to like get involved with the government and like try to get like better technologies to do that kind of thing.
Yeah. I mean, it's possible, but it would be very difficult to do. Yeah, it's not like smoke that you can just, if you just stop making smoke, smoke will eventually fall to the ground, or the rain washes out of the atmosphere. Carbon dioxide will stay there for human timescales forever, as far as we're concerned, really.
Yeah. So, what do you consider the main human impacts that contribute to the air quality worsening?
So I would say that the carbon dioxide doesn't affect air quality. I would say air quality is a little bit different than that. So carbon dioxide is a pollutant in that it's something that humans put in the atmosphere that negatively affects our way of life because it can warm the planet. But air quality is, there are other compounds, other pollutants that affect air quality. So some of the things that come out of our cars, for example, some are carbon dioxide. Some is other types of carbon that's more like soot, stuff that comes out of your chimney if you burn a fire. These sort of things affect air quality. In a place like Portland, a lot of that's automobiles, trucks, trains, airplanes that affect our air quality. We also have some industry that might affect air quality. And the weather also can contribute to air qualities.
Because with all this kind of gloomy weather, it's been raining a lot lately. Like people get kind of depressed and they like do things like smoking and stuff, which can contribute to air quality.
Sure, it can change human behavior. Also, rain can be a good thing because the actual raindrops clean the atmosphere. So as they fall through the sky, they pick up some of the smoke particles and they wash it out. It's almost like washing the air. At the same time, when we have these sort of calm, cloudy days, the atmosphere ends up putting a lid on top of the valley that we live in, and all the pollution can't escape. So we end up with a lot of poor air quality in Portland for that reason. So all the stuff that we emit from our fireplaces, from our restaurants, everything that makes some sort of smoke sits here in the valley. It just sort of acts like a bowl. This is really famous in Los Angeles for happening, but it happens here in Portland quite a bit.
Oh yeah, and because like a lot more people are moving here, they have to build new like apartments and stuff, and like that construction emits a lot of sulfur dioxide, which can go up into the atmosphere. But since normally it's pretty cloudy here. That could like trap it in.
We have a lot of. It's almost like you put a ceiling on top of the atmosphere over Portland. So none of the air pollution that we produce can really go anywhere. It's kind of it's called the fancy word is an inversion, but you don't need to know that.
Yeah, not a fifth grade word.
Right, yeah, we can save that for next year.
I want to ask a question about the events that happened on the 23rd of February this year,
Okay.
where 50 protesters from Portland went to Salem to protest on the 2 factories of glass that were emitting high amounts of pollutants into the air of Portland, causing Portland to be the 3rd state under both California and New York.
Oregon.
Yes,
Yeah.
Oregon.
Yeah.
To be the 3rd state that is at risk of access cancer under California and New York.
Yeah, so my knowledge on that isn't, I know some things about that. So one part of that is that pollution's been going on for a long time. It's only just now that it was found. And it was found because the Forest Service, if I'm not mistaken, was taking samples of moss, the green moss that grows all over. Moss takes all the pollution from the atmosphere and actually cleans our atmosphere, so moss is a good thing to have. And it keeps some of the toxins from the air in the moss. So they did some analysis on the moss, and they found these pollutants in the moss, and they said, oh, we should check this out because that's not good. Some states, so my understanding is that some states, this is how scientists talk, we don't like to be confident in anything. My understanding is that some states have much stricter air quality regulations on these things than Oregon does. So the U.S. government, the federal government, issues some broad regulations, and those are mostly for really big factories. Like Intel has to follow really strict national guidelines, but your little restaurant or your food cart or a little glass factory doesn't. It's also very hard to measure these things because they're very small scale. It's not, someone is always measuring what's coming out of Intel, but people aren't measuring what's coming out of an art studio. So once you start measuring it, all of a sudden, we have a big problem here.
Because it's just like all these little places can just like make as much pollution as like one big place together.
If you're really close to it, it's very bad. If you're pretty far away from it, a lot of this pollution just sort of goes into the moss. It ends up on the ground. So if you don't live really close to it, your air may not be so polluted. But if you do live really close to it, it could be a big problem. And I think other states do a better job at preventing this, and probably Oregon's going to do a better job now.
Yeah, there's like more rules in other states. There's like national laws, but like inside the states there are like different rules you should follow.
Exactly. Yeah.
And some states do more to like prevent pollution than others.
Right.
And yeah.
So my understanding is that Oregon isn't one of the states that does a very good job. And with increasing population, it may have to do a better job. California does an excellent job, but Oregon has, I think, like 4 million people or something like that.
California has even more since it's a bigger
Close
state.
to 40 million people in California.
Yeah.
So they have a lot of people making a lot of pollution. They have big cities like San Francisco and Los Angeles that have lots of pollution, so they've had to deal with this. So probably Oregon will do a better job now because people's attention is definitely captured.
Well, yeah, just Salem just got like called out on like all the stuff that they were doing.
Yeah.
And like Portland and Oregon, Portland specifically, is very eco-friendly with like products and stuff, but like there are a lot of pollutants and not a lot of rules against it.
Right. And some of these things we just learn about. We didn't even know that these glass factories were doing this, and now we do.
I also have noticed that some like major companies such as the Trailblazers have started attempting to do a non-mechanical procedure to take out the carbon in Oregon's air, like this whole 3s for trees thing that they're doing. Every time a Portland Trailblazer shoots a 3 throw, they plant 3 trees, and I think I'm correct.
I didn't know that. Yeah,
I watch
trees.
a lot of basketball.
Trees clean the air because their leaves and the pine needles and branches can act to sort of scrub it out a little bit.
Yeah.
But trees are also made out of carbon. In fact, we're all made out of carbon.
Yes.
Oh yeah,
So when
like the carbon cycle,
Right.
because just like the trees and plants need carbon dioxide,
Mm-hmm.
and they produce oxygen,
Mm-hmm.
and then we produce carbon dioxide, so which they need. So carbon is also a necessary thing, but
Oh,
too
yeah.
much can be bad.
This table is made out of carbon. Your bodies are made out of carbon. Bugs are made out of carbon. So trees actually can remove carbon from the atmosphere temporarily. It's not this, at the beginning we talked about putting it deep under the ocean where it can't go anywhere, but a tree will take carbon out of the atmosphere to build the wood and the leaves and flowers. When the tree eventually dies and it decomposes, it'll release carbon back to the environment. But trees actually take carbon out of the atmosphere while they're growing. So it's a good thing to do you can remove some carbon with trees.
Based off of the fact that we want to put the carbon deep inside the ocean, how would that affect the marine life?
It's a good question. Maybe if it's, I don't know the answer to that one, but I would imagine if it's done very carefully, maybe it's not such a problem. But carbon also acidifies the ocean, so it makes the ocean more of an acid, and that can damage the marine life too. So it's like a lot of things, there's an awful lot of thinking that has to go into it before you go ahead and do it.
And what do you think would be the best way to spread awareness about this problem?
Learning about it and teaching people about it's a good way. So I think you're doing the right thing by being involved and asking good questions, and I assume you'll go talk to people about this afterwards.
Yep.
I think that's really important because people, well, you can see what happened in Portland with the glass factories. When people get concerned, action has to happen. So if enough people are concerned enough, eventually that will cause action to happen. And maybe that's among many reasons why there hasn't been a lot of action on the climate part of things. It's also a very difficult problem to solve. The glass factory is easy.
Yeah.
Just turn off the glass factory. But we can't turn off our heating and our lights and our cars. All of this produces carbon, so you have to change your lifestyle completely. So learning about it, I think, is really big. You can make personal decisions, like to be more energy efficient in your life. Simple things like turning off the lights, not using a lot of hot water, using other modes of transportation than a car. All of those things can reduce your personal impact on both air quality and the climate emissions, the carbon emissions.
Yeah, because we have to consider the different factors of if we have to want to get it down all the way. If we want to get it down all the way, we would have to take into consideration that would mean turning off our heating and cooling, our lights, and
It's really hard when you start to think about it, because our quality of life, our comfortable quality of life, is all based around burning stuff. In Oregon, we have it a little bit better because a lot of our power comes from hydroelectric power, which is carbon neutral mostly.
Okay.
But we still use electricity that's from fossil fuels, and most of us still use cars. And if we ride the Max, what powers the Max? Electricity, right? If we ride the bus, it's natural gas. It doesn't pollute much locally, but burning natural gas still releases carbon. So it's it's a big problem. Right?
The
Really big.
transition in
Very
between
big
our comfortable lifestyle would be big, and most people wouldn't want to do it in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
And depending on how many people would want to do it, it would be a huge change, as you said before.
Yeah.
Like leaving the lighting, heating, all of that stuff to lower the emissions of carbon would impact for a very long period of time until we were at a low level, and then we just started back up again.
Right. Unless we found new technologies that didn't use as much or any. So things like solar power are really good, and a lot of homes around here use solar power to heat their house and warm their hot water for cleaning and bathing and those things. we have much more efficient lighting than we used to. At least we have options for that. Cars are way even inefficient, very large cars are still more efficient than they used to be, so they release less than they used to.
Oh yeah, like in